What's going on, everybody? Scott Bogman here for BettingPros to give you my favorite bets and props for Conference Championship Week of the 2024 college football season. I just wanted to say thank you so much for everyone that has been watching this show every single week. I hope I've helped you, whether you're writing my picks, fading them, however you want to do it. I appreciate you watching and staying with me for the entire season. Thank you so much. And remember, you can follow me on the Betting Pros app or bettingpros.com/Bogman, Bogman. We'll take you to where I have all of my picks placed in our system. This week, I've got 4 picks for you guys for Conference Championship Week. I have 3 touchdown calls and 8 player props. So let's dive right in. Last week, 2 and 3 on the picks, 1 and 1 on the TDs, and 4 and 5 on the props. K-State left that game against Iowa State with a 95% expected post-game win expectancy and just couldn't do it. Too many miscues made me go under 500 this week on the picks. And then the props, I mean, I just bombed out on that Jeremiah Smith pick, for the yards and for the longest reception. That's the one that got me because Ohio State just didn't want to throw the ball deep against Michigan and couldn't throw the ball deep against Michigan. So, just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. But let's get into what I have for the conference championships. First, let's start in the AAC, where I'm taking the points with Army plus 5.5. And I've been against Army and Navy a lot this year, specifically when they both played Notre Dame. I just thought Notre Dame would be able to beat them at the line. And this line suggests that Tulane should be able to do that as well. But we just saw Tulane get run over by Memphis last week. They gave up a ton of rushing yards, and in the 3 losses that they've had, they've given up on average 211 rushing yards. Well, in comes Army with the number 1 rushing offense in the country, right? They're playing at West Point late in the cold. It's going to be 26 degrees at kickoff here in front of a pro-Army crowd way away from Louisiana. For me, I think the cold, the conditions, the recent run that we've seen Tulane be on against, in the run defense, I just think that's going to be too much for them to handle against Army in the cold. Now, I don't have much doubt that Tulane will be able to move the ball against Army. I do think they'll score. So I think we're going to know relatively quickly in this game whether it's going to go this way or not, right? I think by the end of the first quarter, middle of the second quarter, we're going to know, man, Army just can't run the ball, or Army is running the ball, they're controlling the clock, and they can win this game. So I think this game either is a Tulane blowout or I think Army wins late. So I don't hate a money line, play on this game either, but take the points. I like taking the points for sure. So I'm going to do that here for Army plus 5.5 versus Tulane. Second game, I'm going to lay points. The rest of these, I'm actually going to lay points. But Boise State -4 against UNLV. And this is on the Smurf turf in Boise. So UNLV defense held Boise State Heisman hopeful running back Ashton Jayden to a season-low 3.9 yards per carry in this last matchup, which Boise State won in that game by 5 points. I believe it was 29-24 was the final score. But this game is going to come down for me to what Boise State quarterback Maddux Madsen can do. And he didn't play a perfect game in that first matchup. He was 18 for 33. He had just over 200 yards, but he didn't have any turnovers. He didn't take a sack. He ran for a touchdown. He ran for positive yards. So I trust Boise State. They went on the road to UNLV earlier this year, beat UNLV. If they get up, I trust Madsen way more than I trust Malik Williams to play comeback in that game. Earlier this season against Boise State, Malik Williams took 6 sacks. So, opposite ends of the quarterback here. UNLV is a strong team, but the strongest offenses that they've faced have been able to put up yards. I think Boise State's one of the better G5 teams in the country. I think they win this one going away, specifically at home in the cold. So, another game where I'm kind of banking on conditions, but I'm going to lay the 4 and take the Broncos. Let's go to Arizona State -1 versus Iowa State. I'm doing it again. Didn't work for me last week, so if you want to avoid Iowa State because they're using some type of devil magic right now, to win all these games when they have a less than 50% post-game win expectancy. I get it, right? Matt Campbell's a great coach too. This is at a neutral site. There's no like home field advantage for Arizona State or anything. This is in Dallas or Arlington and Jerry World. So, and ASU is down Jordan Tyson in this game, their best wide receiver by a wide margin, and the line has dropped, right? So it's down to Arizona State by just a point now. But Iowa State is 96 statistically against the run. They grade 119th in PFF's run grade. They're 120th in tackle grade. They're just not a good defensive team, specifically right now. So I think Kansas State shot themselves in the foot too many times last week. I'm going to take the Sun Devils. I'm going to lay the point. Iowa State is finding ways to win, but Rocco Becht is 33 for 73 over his last two games. He has 6 of his 18 turnover-worthy plays of the season are in the last two games as well. I just think Arizona State's going to pick off Rocco Becht at some point, and that is going to be the difference in the game. That plus Cam Skattebo just running down their throat. The last game pick I'm going to give you here, Clemson is facing SMU, and I am not taking Clemson. We're going to bet against them again. It worked last week with South Carolina. Now, I do think Clemson deserves to be in this game. There's a lot of talk about, oh, you're welcome, Dabo, because Syracuse beat Miami and all that stuff. Miami lost their games. Clemson won their games. So I understand that they backed in, but they do deserve to be here. But I just think the difference in this game is going to be this SMU defensive front. They have 37 sacks this season. That's 11th in the FBS. They grade as a top 15 pass rush unit according to PFF. They have 4 defensive linemen that grade in the top 100 of 385 graded in pass rushing. And Clemson passes at almost a 60% clip this season. And in the 3 losses, their run defense has failed. I think SMU running back Brashard Smith, who's 24th in the FBS in rushing yards, is going to be able to run the ball on Clemson a little bit. We saw what we really saw was Lenore Sellers running all over them last week, and Kevin Jennings can run. I don't think he's Lenore Sellers, but he has the wheels. He's had a 100-yard rushing game this season, so he can do it if need be. So for this one, I just think that I think Clemson is a little bit outmatched. I know there's talk about how SMU should be able to lose this game and still be in the tourney, but they don't want to leave it up to a committee to decide their fate, especially when the committee has already pushed Alabama in. So I think SMU wins this game. The spread is SMU by 2.5. This is a road game. They are in Charlotte, North Carolina, so it is closer to a Clemson home game, but people from SMU and Dallas and Texas in general travel very well. So I think this will be more even than expected, and I do expect SMU to beat Clemson because I just don't think Clemson's a very good team this year. If you are looking to up your game in sports betting, join our exclusive sports betting Discord community at bettingpros.com/chat. Not only can you connect with expert handicappers who provide free picks for the NBA, NFL, MLB, college sports, player props, live betting, and more, but now you can also participate in our weekly community picks, cast your vote, see how your picks stack up against the experts, and track your success. Do it today over at bettingpros.com/chat. Let's get to the props. First one I have are 3 touchdown props for you. I'm just gonna, be a little bit of a homer here, and I'm gonna take my boy Arch Manning to score a touchdown because they've been using him around the goal line. He did against A&M. He scored, and this number is just plus 295. You're almost tripling up your money if he gets in the end zone. So I think it's worth a shot. Also, Quinn Ewers got replaced the last time Texas played Georgia. Now, it was just for a series, but I think they're just using him differently. Quinn Ewers does come into this game just a little bit banged up. He was able to play through it against Texas A&M, but the ankle has definitely been bothering him. But because they use him to run, they use him near the goal line and in the red zone, I just like this plus 300 number almost. Plus 295, I think it's just really, really good. Let's go to the Big Ten Championship, where I'm going to take Tyler Warren, the Penn State tight end, versus Oregon. He's minus 125. He has 6 receiving touchdowns, 4 rushing touchdowns. Penn State is super creative around the goal line. 5 players have 4+ rushing touchdowns, but only Nicholas Singleton on his own team has more scores than him. This number is minus 125. This probably isn't a straight-up bet for you, but this is one you can add in an underdog or a prize picks or whatever it is that you're playing on to pair with something else. I just think this number is very, very good. And the last one, we're going to go back to another quarterback scoring. Cade Klubnick, the quarterback for Clemson versus SMU. It is even money right now. He has 7 rushing touchdowns this season and 3 in the last 3 weeks, and that included both of the touchdowns that Clemson scored versus South Carolina last week. Phil Maffa, their running back, has not scored since November 2nd versus Louisville. So they've been using Cade Klubnick to run down near the goal line way, way more recently, so we're going to go ahead and take him. Let's go to the passing props. I have 2 here for you. The first one, I mentioned it before, he doesn't have to play perfect, but we're going to go with Maddux Madsen, the quarterback for Boise State, over 216.5 passing yards. UNLV is going to try to make Madsen beat them. They're going to try to stop and hold Ashton Jeanty to 3.9 yards per carry, like they did in the first matchup, which is his worst yards per carry of the season. And I just think that Madsen is going to need to beat them, and I think he is going to beat them. They're 110th in passing yards allowed. They're not very good against the pass. So Boise State held the ball for 34 minutes in that last game. I think that's the name of the game for them is control the clock, don't make mistakes, don't get sacked, and do exactly what you did last time to come away with a win. And I think Madsen will do a lot of that with a couple more passing yards because he was only 18 of 33, and he missed this by like 9-10 yards last time they played. I think if that completion percentage goes up just a touch, he easily gets over this. We're also going to go with Dillon Gabriel, the quarterback for Oregon, in the Big Ten title game, over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Penn State has only allowed 12 this season, but Gabriel has 2 or more passing touchdowns in 10 of 12 games this year. And not many have thrown for 2 against Penn State, but Connor Bazelak for Bowling Green, Will Howard for Ohio State, and Miller Moss, who eventually ended up getting benched for USC, all did it against Penn State. They played a little bit of a weaker schedule. Their defense is really good, but when they do play a good offense, Penn State, those guys can score against them. And I think Oregon is one of the better offenses in the country. So I think over 1.5 passing touchdowns, very achievable for Dillon Gabriel. The rushing props. This one is I'm pairing with my Army play. It's the quarterback for Army, Bryson Daily, over 129.5 rushing yards. And again, like I said before, we're going to know if this is going to be able to pay us out very quickly in this game, but he's hit this in 7 of 10 games. Tulane was run over by Memphis last week, and I just think, I know that Tulane handled Navy, right? And that is a big point that people are pointing out in this game. Their quarterback got hurt 15 plays in, Blake Horvath, and he was the engine. Bryson Daily is also the engine for Army. He has way more yards than anybody else on this team. I think 129.5 is very achievable. Cam Skattebo, the running back for Arizona State, I told you about how bad Iowa State's run D is, and this number is huge. It's 122.5, but he's hit this in 3 of his last 4 games, 6 of 11 overall. Iowa State has not been tackling well. They don't stop the run well, and Skattebo has had over 20 carries in 8 games, and he's been over 25 4 times. And without their best wide receiver, they're going to run the ball a ton in this game. I think Skattebo gets this one fairly easily. Quintrevion Wisner, the running back for Texas against Georgia. This one hit for us last week. We're going to write it again, over 83.5. He had 33 carries for 186 yards against Texas A&M. The week before that, 26 for 158 against Kentucky. These are good run defenses. And he had 15-plus carries in 3 of the 4 games before that. Georgia Tech ran down Georgia's throat last week for 260 yards in that game. UMass ran for 226 against them the game before that. And Tennessee 152, Ole Miss 134. Wisner's getting the ball way more than anybody else for the Texas offense right now. So even after a huge performance, I think he can do it again. And 83.5 with a couple big ones or over 25 carries does not look like a big total at all. Let's go to the receiving yard props. I got 3 for you. We're going to pair Maddux Madsen with their number 1 wide receiver at Boise State, Cam Camper. It's 57.5 yards. He's had 28 targets in his last 3 games, 6 for 92, 5 for 73, 6 for 73. I just think that with the formula of trying to funnel Ashton Jeanty and make Madsen pass the ball, Cam Camper is going to benefit the most out of anybody for that. So easy call here. Mario Williams, wide receiver for Tulane versus Army, over 49.5. He's hit this in 3 of his last 4 games. I think this number is set so low because they think Tulane is going to win. This is one of the bigger spreads of the week. And also, it's in the cold, but Army doesn't give up a lot of passing yards, but Mario Williams leads this team by 17 receptions and 391 yards over anybody else. So if Army does get up and Tulane needs to pass the ball, Mario Williams is going to be the guy to get the ball, and I think that is going to happen. The last one I have for you is Jayden Higgins, a wide receiver for Iowa State, who I just actually saw was the highest-rated wide receiver on PFF for the year, which is very good number here, 74.5 receiving yards against Arizona State. He's had 12 or more targets in 5 of his last 6 games. He's hit this total in 7 of 12 games. His game script should be great for passing. I think ASU wins this one going away. And ASU, while they're good in coverage, they're not good in pass rush, so Rocco Becht will be able to wait and see Higgins get open. He's made a couple huge plays this year as well. But that is it for me this week. I will be back in a couple weeks to do these picks and player props for the bowl games. So, again, I appreciate everyone that has watched this show all year long, whether you're liking my picks, you're fading them, however you're doing it. I appreciate you being here and watching. So you can follow me at Bogman Sports on the Twitter, and I will see you guys next time. Take it easy, everybody.